Hello, welcome to our channel. Today we will share the story of American serial killer Charlie Brandt, also known as Carl Brandt. Click subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. On September 15, 2004, the police teams who came to investigate a house in Orlando encountered a horrible scene. What they saw was horrifying, and there was only one person behind what happened: Charlie Brandt. He was a dangerous psychopath with a monstrous mindset. Charlie Brandt was born on February 23, 1957 in Ford, Indiana, U.S. to an immigrant German couple. He was the second child of Father Herbert and Mother Ilse Brandt. The family used to live in Texas, but later moved to Connecticut, where Herbert worked in the construction industry as a draftsman and project engineer. Charlie had an older sister named Angela. The Brandt family was constantly changing cities because of Father Herbert's job, which affected the children's lives. Charlie and Angela had to change schools frequently. Charlie was shy by nature. In September 1968, the family returned to Indiana for Father Herbert's job. The family also traveled to Florida, where Charlie and Herbert would go hunting whenever they had time. Charlie Brandt appeared to be a perfectly normal and harmless boy. The family was living a happy life, but everything that was going well would be turned upside down overnight, and the first pages of Charlie Brandt's chilling life story would be written. Charlie was 14 and Angela was 15 years old. They had two underage sisters. It was a peaceful evening. The Brandt family was watching various TV shows. One of them was the FBI series. After the series ended at around 10 o'clock, Angela went to her room and read a book before going to bed, as she did every night. The parents were in the bathroom. Herbert was shaving and Ilse was taking a shower. The woman was 8 months pregnant at the time. Soon Angela began hearing noises. It was quite loud, so she thought there were fireworks outside. But something much more horrible was happening in the house. Charlie had taken his father's pistol from the drawer. He went to the bathroom and shot his parents without a second thought. Angela heard her father and mother screaming. Then Charlie burst into Angela's room, pointed the pistol at her sister, and pulled the trigger. Angela, who could not even understand what was happening, thought she was going to die, but the pistol did not fire because there were no bullets left in it. Charlie then threw the pistol on the floor. Angela hit the pistol and pushed it under the bed. Then Charlie sat on top of his sister and began to strangle her, as if he was in a trance. His head was dizzy. Charlie suddenly paused and began to ask himself what he was doing. Taking advantage of this, Angela started calming him down and managed to leave the room. She ran out of the house and started running down the street, knocking on the doors of the neighboring houses, asking for help. Charlie was running after his sister outside the house. Angela finally got her neighbors to call the police. When the police arrived at the house, they found the two babies unharmed. The father, Herbert, was wounded with bullet wounds, but the mother died on the spot with the baby in her belly. The father was treated and survived the horrible incident. Angela told the police everything that had happened that night.
I haven't told this story. I can't remember when.
This is Investigator Rob Hemmert with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. The person being interviewed is Angela, and the last name is Brandt. That's all right.
Okay, I won't cry.
All right.
It was January 3rd, 1971.
Charlie was 13?
Yes.
And Angela, you were how old? 15. Tell me again what took place and what was going on.
9:10 p.m.
Okay.
We had just gotten a color TV.
Right.
So we were all sitting around watching the FBI, Efren Zimbalist Jr. and all that.
Okay.
The FBI was over. We went upstairs. I went and got in bed to read my book like I always did before I went to sleep.
Okay.
My mom ran a bath and read Time magazine. My dad was shaving.
Okay. So you're in your bed reading, and what happens next?
I heard loud noises, which I perceived to be firecrackers.
Okay.
For the simple reason, not that that makes any sense.
That's all right.
But, I mean,
Sure.
what other loud noise is there?
Popping.
Yeah, just a really loud noise. And I just thought it was firecrackers. So I started pulling the covers back to see why on earth, there was all this noise going on. But then I heard my father yell, Charlie, don't, or Charlie, stop. And my mom was just screaming, and the last thing I ever heard my mom say was, Angela, call the police.
So what happens after that?
So, as I said, I was removing the covers from my bed and getting out of the bed, and all this took place in split seconds.
Okay.
I mean, we couldn't, this has got to be less than a minute, I would think, okay?
Right.
And I get up, and as I'm getting up, he comes into my room.
Charlie.
Okay. Brandishing the gun, a gun. I didn't even realize what it really was. I mean, until he aimed it at me, and he pulled the trigger.
Okay. So you hear it click.
I was going to say, I could hear it click.
Okay.
And I guess when he realized the gun didn't have any more bullets, that must be what he threw it on the floor. And as I said, I was lucid enough to kick it under the bed. I didn't know if it had any bullets in it or not. I don't even know what was going on.
Right.
And then a physical altercation ensued. I think he struck me. I do. I think because I had blood and just bruises, and I fought back. This is the only physical altercation I've ever been in my entire life. Okay? And I guess I won because I'm here to tell about it. I don't know.
Right.
And my brain, I remember I was only 15, my brain was trying to assimilate what was going on, and I was trying to get away from him at the same time. He was very strong. The next thing I know that I can remember is I was laying flat on my back. My bed was right here.
On the bed?
No, on the floor.
Okay.
Probably knocked me to the floor. I don't know.
Okay.
And he was sitting on me, and he was strangling me.
Okay.
Okay. I was drifting in and out. I don't think that I got him off of me physically.
All right.
I remember, the way I remember it is, I saw the weird look on his face, the madness, the glazed over look.
Okay.
I saw it disappear. He just looked more like himself, and he said, what am I doing? Or what have I done? And I remember perfectly saying, I don't know, but I think you shot Dad. Because I heard my dad yelling, Charlie, don't do that, or Charlie, stop. And he said, oh, I did, or whatever. I said, I don't know, but get off of me so we can figure it out, okay? And he did. He got off of me. My next step, I was trying to get out of the house. He goes, so you're not going to leave me, are you? Of course I said no.
Sorry.
No, I would run out the door. And I did. As soon as I thought he was far enough away, I ran. Have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah.
I saw it once in my life. I could never watch it again. You know the girl screaming?
Yeah.
The way she ran screaming? That was me. I was just a little girl. I was running through the snow in my bloody nightgown, torn, just screaming. I got to the first house right across the street. I didn't knock on the door. I turned the knob, and it was locked. And then I ran to the next house, and by the time I got to the next house, my brother had apparently come down the steps. He was outside. And all my life, I've heard him screaming after me, Angie, you promised you wouldn't leave me. You promised you wouldn't leave me. But I did.
Charlie explained to the officers the reason for the attack. He was under a lot of pressure from school, he said, and his father had shot and killed his dogs in front of him on a hunting trip to Florida during Christmas. Because of all these, Charlie had tried to kill his family. According to the laws of the state of Indiana, Charlie Brandt could not be tried for juvenile homicide because he was too young, so he was treated in a psychiatric clinic for a year. In June 1972, he was set free and returned to his family. His family members never spoke of that night again. They hid it so carefully that the younger siblings thought they had lost their mother in a car accident. When Charlie returned to his family, they moved to Florida where they started a new life. A year later, Herbert married another woman and took the two younger with him and moved to another city. After the tragic incident, Charlie had returned to a normal life and became a man whose childhood and youth had been uneventful. In 1984, he graduated late from a university. He became an electrical engineer and started working as a radar specialist. He had a girlfriend. The couple's relationship progressed over time, and in 1986, they got married. Charlie and Terry moved to Florida after they got married. Their marriage was successful. They loved each other and were happy. Charlie was described as a quiet and calm person by those around him, but no one knew about his dark childhood past, a cursed past that made him forget himself and would resurface years later in a very painful way. In 2004, there were reports of Hurricane Ivan approaching the Florida coast. On September 2, 2004, the couple had to leave their home. Their niece Michelle Jones, who lived in Orlando, invited them to stay in her house until the danger was over. The couple accepted the invitation. It was September 13. Mitchell had invited some friends to the house that day. However, she later called one of the invited friends, Lisa, and told her that Charlie and Terry had gotten into a fight. Thus, the plans for the evening were canceled. This was the last call she made. On that day, she had not spoken to her mother, with whom she had regular phone calls every day. She did not answer any of her calls after that date. After not hearing from Mitchell, her friend Debbie visited her house on September 15 to check on her. Finding the front door locked, Debbie wanted to go in through the garage and was met with a gruesome sight. Charlie's decomposing body was hanging from the ceiling. The man had hanged himself by the neck with the help of sheets. When the crews arrived at the scene of the crime, they were shocked as they entered the house. A horrific atrocity had taken place in the house. Charlie's niece Michelle was lying on the sofa in a pool of blood. She had been stabbed 7 times in the chest. Her head had been cut off and placed next to her, and all her internal organs, including her heart, had been removed. The weapon of murder was a knife taken from the kitchen. Detectives started to collect the evidence in the house. At the same time, they started to search for the murderer. They all suspected Charlie BRANDT, who had hanged himself. A search in Charlie's house in Big Pine Key revealed books, photographs, and posters about surgeries, as well as a collection of movies about violence against women. The man had also searched the internet for torture, surgery, and autopsy content. Everyone was convinced that Charlie, who was apparently interested in surgery and autopsy, was the one committing the murders. The fact that he had a sordid past did not escape the attention of the police. They suspected that Charlie might have committed other murders and started to look into some unsolved cases around Florida. Then they looked at a wider geographical area, looking for a case that resembled the way Charlie killed Mitchell. They came across the case of Sherry Perishow, who was murdered in 1989. Her body was found floating in the water at the Big Pine Key on July 16, 1989. Her throat had been cut open. Her head was about to be severed. Her internal organs had been removed. Her heart had been ripped out, and the body was found just 300 meters from Charlie BRANDT's house. On the day of the murder, Terry had told her brother-in-law that Charlie had come home that night wearing a bloody shirt and that she suspected her husband was involved in something bad. With all these findings, Charlie BRANDT was officially declared Sherry Perishow's killer on May 6, 2006. The investigators also believed that Charlie BRANDT was linked to the murders of 27 other women. Charlie BRANDT's crimes date back to 1973 when he was just 16 years old. Authorities were not able to find any clear evidence linking 24 of these killings directly to Charlie. But the 1978 murder of Carol Sullivan and the murders of Darlene Toller in 1995 and Lisa Saunders in 1988 were officially linked to Charlie BRANDT. All 3 unfortunate women were beheaded and had their hearts and internal organs removed. They were brutally murdered by someone they trusted. It's unknown whether Charlie had told Terry about his dark past of killing his pregnant mother. Some believe that Terry knew about her husband's crime but didn't care. Charlie BRANDT was a criminal from a very young age. He could not stop killing. He was possessed by murderous impulses that turned him into a ruthless serial killer and a monster. Charlie tried to restrain his hatred for women only by committing murders, but he did not succeed, and his life ended in his own hands.